Hey everybody! I know it's not the most beautiful day for a driving tour of Mercer County, New Jersey, because it is wintry and there's snow on the ground and there's no leaves on the trees and it's not that pretty. But I kind of wanted to show you Princeton, New Jersey, which is a very, very well-to-do town with a lot of old money, as well as Princeton University, which is an Ivy League college and currently rated the #1 university in the United States of America. Right now we are driving into Princeton, and I'm sorry, the thing that holds my phone to the windshield kind of gets in the way of the picture. Now coming up on the right, hopefully you can see it, is Princeton Theological Seminary. Princeton University was originally founded, of course, to educate people for the ministry. That's how a lot of educational institutions work. You can't really see it that well. Crap. And then the seminary split off from Princeton University. The university grew. Then the seminary portion itself split off in 1836. So now that's a grad school seminary to train people for the ministry. It's a Presbyterian seminary, and I myself went there. Yes, I have a Master of Divinity from Princeton Theological Seminary, but it's no longer attached formally to Princeton University. However, if you are enrolled at one of the schools, you can take courses at the other. So for example, when I went to seminary, I took some undergraduate history courses at Princeton University. All right, now we're coming into the downtown area of Princeton. So as we turn onto ye old famous Nassau Street, you can see some of the stores and businesses. So the businesses and restaurants and banks and so forth are going to be on the left, and Princeton University is on the right. Okay, see that tower thing that just came into view? That's part of Princeton University. So Princeton University is on the right, and it's a very beautiful old university, and they built it kind of in the style of your Cambridge and Oxford in England, but this style of architecture is certainly not native to the United States of America. Okay, so there we have some Princeton University. Then that white building coming up on the right is the Nassau Presbyterian Church, and then there's more Princeton University behind it. All of Princeton University is over to the right. It's all back there. And before we get to too much of it, I'm going to be making a left-hand turn to go into Princeton because I have an appointment in downtown Princeton, which is why we are here. So we've got Princeton University over there. Oh, we're about to pass Nassau Hall. All right, that's Nassau Hall at Princeton University. All right, there's more downtown stuff. That's Hamilton Jewelers, and we got the students who are slowly crossing the street. Obviously not concerned that I'm going to run them over. Here we have Witherspoon Street, and there are lots of little businesses and restaurants along here. I'll show you Palmer Square on our way out of town, where they have the giant Christmas tree. I don't know if this looks fancy and nice to y'all, but this is one fancy, expensive town. Very expensive town. Now that red brick building right there, that's the town library. And it is super duper duper nice. And let me tell you, you do not want to get a parking ticket in this town. I get a parking ticket for an expired meter. It's about $35. And that's what it was the last time I got one. And that's probably 15 years ago. So it may well be a lot more expensive. Now that brick building on the left is the Princeton Art Center. Like people in the community can take art classes there. My kids have taken art classes there. Over there's the graveyard, and there are some famous Princeton-y people buried there, if you are into that kind of thing. Some of these old homes are subdivided into condos, and the condos go for something like $1 million each. So within one of these big old houses, you basically are going to have an apartment that costs you $1 million. Okay, so that's kind of crazy. So here we go, another residential street of Princeton. And again, this is not the fanciest neighborhood in town, but these houses are certainly more than I could ever afford. It's all location, 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 isn't it? I have to say, these are great neighborhoods for trick-or-treating because the people who live here are very wealthy, but look how close the homes are to each other. So you can really very quickly get from one home to another, and you are getting multiple full-size candy bars. Oh yes, awesome for trick-or-treating. Okay, see that red brick deal over there? That is Westminster Choir College, also in Princeton. So if any of you are churchy, or you're involved in church music, or you're a choir director, why, you may know of that. Now quickly I want to show you the house my mother grew up in the 1930s, because it occurs to me we're on that street. So there it is, coming up on the left, coming to view, that red brick house with the, there we go, that's my mother's house she grew up in, red brick house with a fence. My mother grew up in Princeton in the 1930s. Oops, I just drove over a curb. Okay, now we're going down Prospect Street. This is where the eating clubs are for Princeton University because they don't have fraternities. So this is eating clubs we're coming up to now. But anyway, so my mom grew up in Princeton in the 30s. They were fancy. And my grandmother, Nana, was in the same social club with Albert Einstein. And his sister also. Who, by the way, his sister was still alive when I was in seminary, and we used to see her wandering around town, but she was very, very, very slow. So you might see her walking down the street with her nurse, and then you'd come out of class an hour later, and she'd be like 5 feet farther down the sidewalk. She was really, really old. But anyway, so Nana was in the same social club with Albert Einstein and his sister, and I said to her one time, Nana, did you know them? Did you ever speak to Albert Einstein? Alright, it's bumpy, but there's a little footage of the eating clubs, kind of above the parked cars. So anyway, I said to Nana, so did you know Einstein and his sister? Did you ever talk to them? Wait, straight ahead right there, that's some of Princeton University. And that on the right is the Woodrow Wilson School. It's a graduate school for international blah 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 something or other. There's some smarty pants Princeton students. All right, here's just more Princeton University, and right after these brick buildings is the University Chapel right there. I have a story about the chapel. All right, right after the chapel is the library. So that is the library, and then we'll be turning again onto Nassau Street. And now town will be on our right, and university will be on our left. There you go. Where was I with Nana's story? So Nana's in this social club with Einstein and his sister. And I said, Nana, did you know them? Did you hang out with the Einsteins? Did you ever talk to them? Because, you know, Albert Einstein was the rock star of his era. And my grandmother, who's so fancy, said, oh no, I never would have spoken with them. Like, she's above the Einsteins. And I said, what do you mean? Why wouldn't you have spoken to them? Oh, with all the hair! Because you know how he had the white hair that stuck up all over the place? And so did the sister. So that was enough for Nana to poo-poo any kind of association with the Einsteins. Yeah. Okay, now back to the University Chapel, which is back there. Well, actually, that's the back of the library. But on the other side of the library is the University Chapel. So, my story about that. When I was in seminary, when I graduated with my Master of Divinity, we had our graduation ceremony in the Princeton University Chapel. It was very fancy, very lovely. The seminary has a chapel too, but it's too small for that. So, actually, my first marriage took place in the seminary chapel, which later, maybe 10 years later, Martha Stewart came out and listed as one of her top fabulous locations for a wedding. And I thought, hey, Martha, I am so ahead of you there. There's kind of more downtown Princeton over there with the stores. And then we're back over to the university side with Nassau Hall coming up again, if traffic wasn't so much in the way. All right, I'm going to quickly show you Palmer Square, which is in the middle of Princeton. So over there, that tree gets lit up at Christmas, and it looks lovely. And that kind of archway we're driving under, that's part of the Nassau Inn, which is the hotel in town. That's where I stayed the night before my first marriage, my first wedding rather, 1,000,000 years ago. That marriage only lasted a couple of years. Frugal mommy might not be the easiest woman to date or marry or get along with. Yeah, I own it. I can be a bitch. They really decorate this town very, very nicely at Christmas. Like, all these little stores will have garland and bows and lights and so forth, and it's very, very, very lovely. Over here we have some very fancy overpriced stores, including ice cream stores where you can pay $5 for a fancy scoop of ice cream. Alright, my story about the chapel. So we're having our graduation ceremony when I got my master's at the chapel, and so as we are coming out of the chapel, you know, it's slow, it's crowded, the traffic is clogged up, the traffic of people exiting. So what happens, coming down the front stone stairs of the chapel, is my mother trips and gives a little scream, ah! And then falls down the stairs. So, naturally, I am torn as to what to do, because my first reaction is, oh good God, she's so embarrassing, I must pretend I don't even know her. But this is only a very fleeting thought, because my other thought is, for God's sake, you just earned a Master of Divinity. You'd think you could be nice enough to help your damn old mother up off the ground. Alright, there's the seminary again. We could quickly drive through the seminary. You guys want to see what the seminary looks like? That's one of the dorms right there. Alright, so this is Princeton Theological Seminary. So, back there behind that pine tree is the, what is that over there? That's like administration stuff. This building is a dorm, and it has professors' offices on the first floor. That building back there with the cupola on top is a dorm, and that was my dorm my second year here. But to get a Master of Divinity, it takes 3 years. That building back there is the dining hall. This is an administrative building. That Gothic-looking building right there, that red brick, that is a classroom building. Okay, this little building is Miller Chapel. That is where I got married the first time. That's Erdman Hall. That was my dorm my first year at Seminary. It's kind of a more modern building. This street is Library Place. That little red brick building is also part of the seminary. I think that's more professors' offices. I had a professor who really screwed me over on a grade who was in that office. Professor Fenn. Professor Fenn looked a lot like one of those old-time movie actors. Who was it? The guy who was in To Kill a Mockingbird. An older silver-haired version, but... was that Gregory Peck? I think so. Yeah. So Professor Fenn screwed me on a grade, but he did look like Gregory Peck. Now we're driving down Library Place in Princeton, and here we have some big-ass, expensive houses. This is where people who, for example, run, I don't know, Bristol-Myers Squibb might live. That type of situation. This is a very expensive neighborhood. Keeping in mind, houses like this might cost, I don't know, over $1 million in some other states, but in New Jersey, with the property taxes and the cost of real estate, these are many, many, many millions of dollars. So when I was in seminary and I lived in that dorm the first year that I just showed you, that modern-looking dorm, I used to take walks here at night and very much hope that I would twist my ankle and fall down in front of one of these gorgeous houses. So the oh-so-handsome and yet slightly unapproachable and surly handsome, did I say handsome, and well-to-do lord of the manor would come out and rescue me since I'm laying there in his front yard with my twisted ankle. And of course that would be the beginning, speed bump, of our beautiful, lifelong, perfect, committed relationship. That sadly never happened. But I am picturing this very much in the vein of a Wuthering Heights Jane Eyre type romance. Alright, a few more well-to-do houses, and then we're going to go for milk. Okay, keep your eyes peeled because we're coming up to the governor's mansion. Yes, the governor of New Jersey, there it is, has his mansion in Princeton, New Jersey. And there it goes.